A mechanic in Montana posts a single photo online. The underside of a 1997 Chevy pickup. 22 years old. Driven through decades of brutal northern winters, road salt, and everything a Rust Belt highway can throw at bare steel. The frame looks factory fresh. No grinding, no professional shop, no $700 undercoating package. Just a dark, sealed surface that stopped corrosion permanently for the cost of a cup of coffee. The post exploded across every truck forum and mechanic group online because experienced people immediately recognized what they were looking at. Someone had permanently solved a problem that drains thousands of dollars from vehicle owners every year, and the solution cost $3. But here is what makes this story much bigger than one truck in Montana. The United States military deployed this exact chemistry to protect tanks, rifles, and landing craft during World War II. The British Royal Navy formally tested it on warship hulls in the 1850s. Roman soldiers were preserving their iron weapons with this same compound over 2,000 years ago. And right now, you can walk into any hardware store, pick up a branded rust converter priced at $15 to $30, flip it over, and read the ingredients. Same substance, same molecule, repackaged and marked up 10 to 15 times its actual cost. They did not abandon it because it failed. They buried it because it worked and because it costs almost nothing. Welcome. Today we pull back the curtain on one of the most quietly suppressed pieces of practical chemistry in modern consumer history. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what it is, why it works, why it was hidden, and how to use it yourself this weekend for $3. The accidental discovery in ancient Rome. Go back 14 centuries before the first industrial factory. Ancient Rome. Leather workshops across every major city in the empire. Massive stone tanning vats filled with crushed oak bark and water, producing the dark liquid that transformed raw animal hides into durable leather. The word tanning itself comes from the Latin word for oak. It was one of the most essential industries the empire supported. Now imagine an iron worker accidentally drops a set of iron buckles into one of those tanning vats. When he retrieves them, they look different, darker. Over the following weeks, every other iron tool in the workshop develops the familiar orange crust of rust. Those buckles stay clean. No explanation, just results. And in the ancient world, useful results traveled fast because survival depended on it. The tanners told the blacksmiths told the armorers. The armorers recognized the military implications and escalated immediately. By the 2nd century AD, Roman legions operating on the wet, hostile frontiers of Gaul and Germania were systematically treating their iron equipment with concentrated oak bark solutions. Chainmail soaked after river crossings, sword blades treated before long marches. This was standard military maintenance practice across multiple frontier garrisons. We are not relying on interpretation here. Garrison records preserved from Vindolanda, a Roman fort near Hadrian's Wall in northern England, contain explicit written references to iron preservation treatments using bark solutions. These are maintenance records, the Roman military equivalent of a technical service manual. A procedure written over 2,000 years ago describes the identical chemistry you could apply to a rusted tool in your garage this afternoon. The powder has a modern label now, but the molecular reaction on the iron surface is completely unchanged. 5 continents. The same answer. Here is what makes this story genuinely extraordinary. Rome was not alone. When rust threatens iron, and iron is essential to survival, human ingenuity, working independently, separated by oceans and centuries, arrives at the same fundamental answer. Not similar answers. The exact same chemistry, sourced from different plants, discovered by cultures that had absolutely no contact with each other. Consider feudal Japan. The katana's composite structure, a hard carbon steel cutting edge bonded to a softer iron spine, gave it remarkable performance. But that softer iron spine was a serious problem in Japan's subtropical climate. An untreated blade spine could develop rust within weeks during the rainy season. Japanese swordsmiths developed kakishibu, fermented persimmon juice, as their solution. This tannin-rich liquid was applied to the vulnerable iron sections before the final tempering stages. The tannins bonded at the molecular level with the iron surface, creating a chemically stable moisture barrier. Specific formulations became so closely guarded they were passed only from master to a single chosen apprentice. The chemistry was a competitive advantage worth protecting with secrecy. Now move 6,000 miles west to the Yoruba metalworkers of West Africa. Master iron smelters working since at least 500 BC, centuries before iron technology was widespread across Europe. They faced 6 full months of tropical monsoon season, with humidity so extreme that unprotected iron could show visible rust within a single day. Their answer came from the surrounding forest. tannin-rich extracts from shea bark and acacia pods painted onto tools before the rains arrived. Tools treated this way survived the entire monsoon season intact. Untreated iron did not. Persian metalworkers used crushed pomegranate rind, containing over 28% tannic acid, to protect sword blades. Indigenous craftsmen in South America used extracts from local tannin-dense woods to preserve traded iron tools. 5 continents, dozens of cultures, a span exceeding 2,000 years, zero possibility of shared knowledge between most of these groups. Every single one reached the identical conclusion. Certain plant compounds applied to iron convert corrosion into permanent protection. Scientists call this convergent discovery. When independent observers arrive at identical conclusions without sharing information, it means they encountered the same underlying truth. These civilizations did not invent this chemistry. They found it. Nature had already written the solution, the science. Rust becomes its own shield. For 2,000 years, this knowledge lived entirely in the hands of craftsmen. It worked, and that was sufficient. Nobody needed a molecular explanation because the results were consistent and obvious. That changed in 1813. French chemist Michel-Eugène Chevreul isolated tannic acid as a distinct pure chemical compound for the first time in recorded history, systematically documented its reaction with iron oxide, and published his findings in peer-reviewed scientific literature. The empirical knowledge of generations of blacksmiths finally had precise chemical language attached to it. Here is the science. When iron is exposed to oxygen and moisture over time, it forms iron 3 oxide, the flaking orange-brown compound we call rust. Rust is destructive not just because it replaces solid metal, but because it is structurally porous. It traps moisture and creates microscopic pathways that allow corrosion to keep spreading beneath the visible surface. Left alone, rust is self-accelerating. Tannic acid, when it contacts iron 3 oxide, triggers a direct chemical reaction. The tannic acid molecules bind to the iron ions present in the rust and convert them into an entirely different compound, iron 3 tannate, also called ferric tannate. This new compound is chemically stable, completely water-insoluble, and structurally dense. It does not flake, it does not expand, it does not continue reacting with atmospheric oxygen, and it bonds directly to the steel surface at the molecular level, forming an integrated protective barrier rather than a separate layer sitting above the metal. Now, here is the distinction that separates this chemistry from everything the commercial rust industry sells, and it is the single most important concept in this video. A coating, synthetic primer, petroleum-based rust inhibitor, spray can rust paint physically sits on top of the rust. It remains chemically separate from the metal and the active corrosion beneath. Every coating eventually fails. Moisture finds a chip, a scratch, a hairline fracture at an edge. Once moisture gets under the coating, it contacts the still active rust beneath and corrosion resumes, now hidden from view and accelerated by trapped moisture. There is no separate layer to chip away from, no chemical boundary for moisture to infiltrate. The rust itself has been transformed into the protection. Iron tannate did not coat the corrosion. It replaced it, chemically rebuilt into something permanently impermeable. This is not a marketing claim. It is a precise description of what happens at the molecular level within 10 to 15 minutes of application. The orange rust you start with is a chemically different substance from the dark blue-black surface you finish with. Iron oxide is gone. Iron tannate replaced it, and iron tannate does not continue reacting with oxygen and water. The disease becomes the cure. The corrosion becomes the shield. The military proof. Laboratory chemistry proves a mechanism. Military deployment proves performance under conditions where failure costs lives. By the mid-1800s, the British Royal Navy was transitioning to iron-hulled warships and facing a serious corrosion crisis. Salt water in extended naval operations was degrading iron hulls at a rate threatening operational readiness. Formal testing at Portsmouth Harbor showed tannin-treated hull sections outperforming standard lead-based paints across multi-year evaluation periods. At lower cost, and without the significant toxicity hazards lead paint posed to naval crews. But the defining test came during World War II. When the conflict erupted in 1939, rust was an active operational emergency. Sherman tanks shipped across the moisture-saturated North Atlantic arrived in North Africa with seized turret mechanisms and corroded track components. Rifles stored in Pacific Island depots jammed within weeks, as tropical humidity overwhelmed standard oil-based preservation treatments. Every corroded weapon was a soldier without reliable defense. Every seized vehicle was armor that could not advance. In 1941, the United States War Department launched a comprehensive materials preservation research program at Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland. More than 200 anti-corrosion compounds were subjected to accelerated salt spray testing. A 4% tannic acid solution applied to pre-rusted steel panels withstood over 1,000 hours of continuous salt spray without failure. The best-performing synthetic petroleum-based competitor broke down at approximately 600 hours. The military response was immediate. Tannic acid was procured in bulk for logistics depots across multiple theaters of operation. Jeep frames, ammunition canisters, rifle components, steel bridge sections, landing craft hardware in constant saltwater exposure, all treated with the same plant-derived compound Roman blacksmiths had stumbled onto in leather tanning vats 2 millennia earlier. The most powerful military force in history, with access to the full output of American industrial chemistry, chose a $3 plant extract, not out of frugality, because it outperformed every synthetic alternative available. Why this was buried. So why does almost nobody know about this? If this compound protected Roman legions, British warships, and American combat equipment across 3 continents, why is it absent from mainstream awareness? Why are you learning about this from a video, rather than from the mechanic who charged you $500 for a rust treatment? The answer is not a dramatic conspiracy. It is something more ordinary and far more frustrating because of how completely predictable it is. Economics. When World War II ended in 1945, American chemical companies faced a structural business problem. Significant capital had been invested during the war years in manufacturing infrastructure for petroleum-based synthetic rust inhibitors. Distribution networks were established. Sales organizations were built. Marketing frameworks were developed around products carrying substantial profit margins. Tannic acid could not be made to fit that economic model, not because it performed poorly, but because it was too inexpensive. It is a naturally occurring compound sourced from oak bark, tea leaves, grape seeds, chestnut wood, and numerous other plant materials. It cannot be patented. No single manufacturer can control its production. A powder costing $3 per 100 grams, applied by anyone with a foam brush and a plastic container, does not support a franchise service model or justify a dealership rust-proofing package. So the industry repackaged the solution and sold it at a premium. Go to any hardware store right now, find the rust treatment section, pick up any major brand rust converter, turn the bottle over and read the safety data sheet. In virtually every case, tannic acid is listed as the primary active ingredient, dissolved in petroleum solvents, packaged in branded containers, priced at $15 to $30. That is $3 to $5 worth of active chemistry, carrying $10 to $25 of packaging and marketing cost. After regulatory changes in 1978, manufacturers gained the ability to list active ingredients under proprietary trade names rather than standard chemical names. Tannic acid became Advanced Corrosion Conversion Compound, or Stabilized Iron Oxide Modification Technology. The molecule stayed identical. The vocabulary became proprietary. The price stayed high. The U.S. auto parts and repair aftermarket generates over $300 billion annually. Corrosion-related repairs account for roughly 30% of that total, approximately $90 billion every year. A significant portion of that $90 billion is being spent on treatments whose active chemistry costs cents per application. Closing. Every civilization that worked iron understood some version of this chemistry. Roman legionnaires maintaining equipment at oak bark, tanning vats on the frontier of Britain, Japanese swordsmiths applying persimmon lacquer to folded steel in candlelit workshops, Yoruba ironworkers painting shea bark, extract onto tools before the monsoon arrived. Craftsmen on 5 continents, separated by thousands of miles and hundreds of years, each finding the same answer because the same truth was available to anyone who observed carefully enough. This knowledge was never developed in a corporate laboratory. It was never anyone's intellectual property. It emerged independently across human history through observation and the urgent need to make iron last in a world where iron meant survival. It belongs to anyone who owns tools, maintains a vehicle, or has a piece of cast iron going orange somewhere in the back of a cabinet. The $90 billion corrosion industry depends on you never comparing a $3 powder to a $30 bottle. But chemistry does not negotiate with marketing. Iron tannate does not respect brand positioning. And the oak trees producing tannic acid for millions of years have never filed a patent. You now know what the mechanic in Montana knew. what the Roman armorer recorded in garrison logs near Hadrian's Wall, what the US military confirmed under salt spray conditions in 1941. Apply it, test it, share it with anyone who has ever received a rust repair estimate. The knowledge was always yours. It was just buried under a very profitable layer of branding. Stay sharp, stay self-reliant, and subscribe, because next time we open a vault around something most people discard without a second thought, and it turns out it could keep you warm through a complete winter emergency.